Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Air Gap Networks at RSA 2021. My next guest is Mr. James Mountain. He's the Chief Information Security Officer for Palmer College of Chiropractic. Today's topic, ransomware in education. Mr. James Mountain, welcome back to Air Gap and RSA 2021, my friend.
Hey, thanks for having me, Chuck.
How you been? It's been, several months since we talked last. Anything new going on that you want to share?
No, it's been great. We're Palmer's no masks now. Everyone's getting vaccinated, so everything's great. We're all back to work. It's good times again.
Good. Excellent. That's good. Now, let me get your thoughts on Colonial. This is kind of topical. I am the sort of person that says, you know what? That thing you heard on the news today, I'm not even going to pay attention to it for a couple of weeks because that's when the truth comes out. Right now, we don't really know much about it, but just your general impression. To me, it seemed more sinister than other things we've had. It seemed, I don't know, more Bond villain-like or something to me. I don't know.
Well, from what DarkSide has said is they're not a nation state. They just want money. And they look at the people that they were going after, a $12 billion industry, and they thought we can get some money out of this. They posted that they're not going after education or hospitals or infrastructure, but this one was kind of close to it, and they said that they didn't really care. They just wanted the money. I mean, they did negotiate the price down, but if you look what's happening on the West Coast, you can see the gas shortages and people are really hurting for the people out there.
So let's talk about the education challenge as it applies to ransomware. Is it a little different, do you think? In getting funding and getting people on board and making people aware of it? Do you have any specific challenges that you face?
I work with a great team of people. Our executive team is great. They understand ransomware. I don't have budgetary problems when it comes to things that I need. I mean, I'm very picky with what I'm getting. I'm not going for the high end stuff. So we are the trusted leader in chiropractic. We are not the trusted leader in IT security. So I need to make sure that the things that I go out and get, and they're carefully vetted. And knock on wood, right now, ransomware hasn't been a problem for Palmer. Breaches, all that stuff. We've been. I'm going to say it's all me that's doing the great job and not luck, but it's probably a little bit of both.
All right, fair enough. Let's talk about zero trust. This is kind of the starting point for some of these things. I define zero trust like this. The first answer is no, you can't come in. This is the old physical security side. You couldn't come into the studio unless we let you. And now zero trust is saying, oh, we used to let you in, but now we're going to let you in and authenticate you first. And I'm glad we're moving this way. But what does zero trust mean to James? Because everybody has a little different definition of zero trust.
Yep. So my definition of zero trust, it's two things. It's layer of defense along with least privilege. So, let you into the studio, great. We'll let you in, but now we're going to put you in a box like you see in some of the banks. So now I'm going to verify that it's you and that nobody else is coming with you. And then I'm going to let you in. So, you have your MFAs, your network segmentation. You have it down to the application can talk to this application, but a user can't talk to the application. And, just so many things that prevent you, conditional access, all this stuff in together is zero trust. So that not only do I know it's that person, but that person is permitted. And what are they permitted to see? They can't get everything in the application. Just because you have access to a database doesn't mean you can see all of the information. It means you can see only what you are supposed to see.
Now, in a campus environment, the idea is openness in things, in learning, education, movements, that sort of thing. Do you find that the cultural openness makes it a little more challenging for you to create a zero trust environment digitally? Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. It is difficult, but we're not dealing with, when it comes to stuff like students' information, their grades, all that is protected by FERPA. And if you really want more security in your environment, regulations are your friends. You can say we're an academic health center, so we have to deal with HIPAA. Well, HIPAA says I need to be able to audit logs, so I'm going to need some money for a SIM. Oh, HIPAA says this, FERPA says this, PCI says this, so I'm going to need money for this. And when you start working with regulations and you create institutional policies based off that, they have really no choice but to do what the policies say. We can't say, well, we're education, so HIPAA doesn't apply to us. We're education, so this regulation doesn't apply. GDPR doesn't apply. These don't apply. You don't have that choice. Same as the banking industry doesn't have the choice not to go against whatever, what's in the banking, and every business has something they have to be regulated with. We're not private. We are education and healthcare, and we have to deal with those types of regulations.
Well, do you find that I'm not saying Palmer College, but just education in general?
Yep.
Do you find there's some resistance in some of these things? Because to your point, they say, well, we're education. We have exceptions. There's a lot of exceptions in education for all kinds of rules and regulations.
Well, luckily for me at Palmer, it has been the culture. The culture has changed, and I don't get much pushback. When I worked, government seemed to be a lot of pushback, and when I worked for the private sector, there was some, because we are about, and a lot of it's maybe not the business, maybe not the government, just the people you're working with. There's any business you work with, there's someone that you're there and you're like, man, I'm going to tell this person they need to do this, and they're not going to listen to me, or those are the, and it's just a individual person. It's not, I don't think it's the culture of education or government, private. I probably just had some bad apples I had to work with that I would rather have not had, because of the way that they perceive security. The thing is, I'm more important than people. I had a user one time said that they were too busy to get a simulated phishing email from me. And they complained about it. They went to HR and said, I am too busy to get this. And I told that user, I said, you know what? I understand you're busy. So I'm going to tell every hacker in the world that you are too busy to be hacked. But can you give me a time, like maybe an hour, sometime in a month, that I can tell everyone that that's when they should hack you? They didn't appreciate it, but that's, there isn't a time when, oh, hey, it's 11 a.m. on a Thursday. This is hacking hour. No, it happens all the time. And we send out the simulated phishing events all the time. And I have not heard any complaints. Usually I get emails from people saying, oh, you got me. That was a good one. Or I didn't see that one. Or, oh, you didn't get me this time. And it's all good, ribbing, for me. But no, culture is just, it's individuals, and you just have to deal with them.
Now, I would think that given the fact that you're an educational institution and healthcare, right? You got a double-pointed sword there. You're really a sweet spot for a ransomware attack. I would think people are interested in HIPAA as records, and of course, education has a lot of different layers of records and things like that. Not for Palmer College specifically, but in general, do you think education is targeted a little more in ransomware? There's so many attacks, I can't keep them all straight, but education wouldn't be a place that has a deep pocket full of money to pay. I'm just wondering if they're not as attacked,
So you look at company, like what DarkSide said, and what they do is those are targeted attacks. So they know the businesses they're going after. They know how much money they're worth. There's not much money in education. A lot of it's through federal grants and it's student loans and that. But if you're looking at places like hospitals, those people are forced to make a decision. Do people die, or do we pay ransomware? Banks are a good one. But you also have to look at the security, of an institution. Is it worth it? Am I going to spend all my time trying to get into this business that I want to hack so badly? But so there is, the money's not there for what a person can get to when they could easily go to a hospital. And it's like that old story about the guy when he goes with his friend and they're in the woods and the guy's wearing tennis shoes. And the guy's like, you can't outrun a bear. I don't have to outrun a bear. I have to outrun you. I have to have better security than the next education place. So they can take them and they can leave Palmer alone. So it's not, I mean, everybody's a target. Everybody, if they can but even individual people are users with ransomware. I'm going to take some person that I have no idea who they were, and I'm going to get $200 or $2,000 because they want to get their family photos back. So some of it's just a crapshoot as to who they get with the ransomware. Some of it's just sprayed out, and we're going to see what we can get. We're going to throw a net, and we'll see how much money we can get.
So I remember when we talked last time, you had a very robust IT security program over there. And like you said just a few minutes ago, you have good funding and good support, which is the most important thing. So I assume you haven't been attacked, or you don't have to tell me if you were, right? But walk me through a simulated ransomware attack. What are you going to do to stay ahead of that? What are some precautionary things we can do to just, if we get hit, at least stop it and stop the propagation, slow it down?
So the two things you want before any of the ransomware, before you do that, is you want user training. So the users know what to do. They know that if they, don't click on links, all that if they see something weird, call the help desk, don't forward emails. All user training is great. And the number two thing is having a good backup. As we've seen what happened with the Colonial Pipeline, they didn't have their data. Why couldn't they just use the backup copy? Why did they have to pay that money if they had a backup? Maybe they didn't. And so you get those two things. The next thing that would be great is you have to look at, if there's ransomware played out in a scenario, what are you doing manually that can be automated? The person gets ransomware on their machine. Are you having to go into a network switch and black hole it? Are you having to turn the machine, walk over the machine, turn it off? Are you there's a lot of things that can be done, automatically, like a kill switch with some type of endpoint protection that says, oh, I see files getting encrypted. This machine is now isolated. It can't get to the internet. It can't go anywhere. And those are three steps right there that aren't going to break the bank. It's a lot cheaper than paying ransomware.
Well, that's what I say. It's the model is you're going to pay now or going to pay later, right? I mean, I'm going to invest in the infrastructure of my cybersecurity program. I'm going to put $100,000 into it, or I'm going to pay $1 million 2 years from now. It just seems like kind of a no-brainer. And I get budgets and I get all that kind of stuff because ultimately it does come down to money. Do you think that this attitude is shifting where we're saying, and your department aside, because you are very lucky, my friend, you have an outstanding support system there for your IT department. But as you know, a lot of departments are kind of like begging for resources and money, right? Do you think that's changing? Do you think the C-level decision maker board of directors are saying, you know what, we got to bring these guys in the C-suite. We got to put this concern, ransomware, at the top of our decision making in the C-suite?
As long as the news keeps on the pipeline and SolarWinds, and they keep talking about how much it's costing these businesses. I mean, I get talked to, about this from people higher than me. Well, is Palmer doing what it can to do this? I would like to say no, they're not. Can I get more money? But I think we're doing a lot that is to protect the college. And there are some people that's just bottom line. Do I, like you said, do I want to spend $100,000 now, or maybe $1 million later? It's not guaranteed. It's not guaranteed you're going to get hit. And the people that are making the decisions, they're sleeping at night. The CISOs and the CIOs who are worrying about this, we're the ones that staying up going, man, anytime we get hit with ransomware because I don't have A, B, or C product that I need to protect us. And, but what I do is I make sure that I present everything that I think that Palmer needs. I present it, and then they say yes, no, and, I try to fight for some stuff. And at the end of the day, it is, businesses are about making profit. And if they decide not to go with the solution that I've recommended, if something happens, I can usually point back and say, I told you so.
Let's talk about a couple of technical things, help my small security guy TV brain understand this. One of the big components of ransomware defense is isolation. Here's where I get confused.
Yes.
if you're using zero trust, I thought you already had isolation in place, right? Are we saying that if you don't use zero trust, you don't have initial isolation or authentication, and therefore you're more vulnerable? I guess you have to have one to prevent the other.
No, they're separate. So we had a zero trust model where I worked before, and a person got an email, and it was probably on their personal email. They logged into their Gmail or their Yahoo or whatever they logged into, and it said, "Hey, you really need to check out this link." So the person clicked on it, and all of a sudden, their files on their computer were starting to get backed up. Were starting to get encrypted, and I don't know what this person had on their machine. If it was, luckily it wasn't an HR or a finance person. It was someone who didn't have financials but still, I mean, they're getting their other stuff. And the minute that a couple files got encrypted, they couldn't get anywhere. And this end user didn't know what happened. She clicked a link, and then something came up on her screen, and she couldn't get internet, she couldn't get email. So she gave me a call and said, "Hey, I think something's wrong with my internet." Oh, I went over there and I saw the little ransomware thing on there, and I said, "Oh, okay, well, you're pretty much done. Let's get this machine, let's take it off the network and wipe it clean and give you a new one for a while." And that's she's just logging into her personal email while she's on work, and she got hit with ransomware. That's how easy it happens. And yeah, it didn't matter if she had zero trust or not. She was already logged into her computer. She was already supposed to be there. But yeah, zero trust is not going to stop ransomware.
So the guy that's inside the network doing that, if you had a zero trust model, how could he get past the point where he was able to do this? Am I hearing that if you don't have a zero trust model, you're more likely to have these sort of attacks internally?
No. I mean, she was already logged into her machine. She already had all the applications she's supposed to go to. She just went to her personal email address, clicked the link, and that's how it happens. It went into her machine and it grabbed her stuff off of her desktop, off of her downloads. It was starting to encrypt stuff, and then the kill switch said, "Nope, we're blocking all internet. Everything on your machine is shut down. Your network port is turned off." And she couldn't do anything. She was locked out of everything. We just took the machine and wiped it, but nothing got out, and it didn't matter what was encrypted because we have backups of it.
So talk to me about propagation then. Okay, so when we have the entire network locked down, maybe we start on a server. What's the time length in propagation? What I hear is I can be aware that somebody's in my network. I can be aware there's a ransomware attack. But it's not the end of the world. It does take some time to encrypt every file on my giant network, right? So if I have some responses in place, am I going to be able to survive if I'm ready to respond?
You should be. You just have to know. So the first thing that would happen is, like with the Colonial Pipeline, they took all the data. The hackers had the data. And part of the ransomware was not only will we unencrypt your data, but we promise, Scout's honor, we promise that we will delete all your data. Are they? I don't know. I mean, you're taking their word for it. You're paying millions of dollars for their word. So you should see some network monitoring tools, a SIM. You should see, hey, there's a lot of data leaving this business at like 8 o'clock at night. And if you have any kind of behavioral analytics, you should see that we're seeing a sizable stuff leaving at certain times. Now, the good ransomware people are going to make sure that they're not sending, 50 gigs one night. They're going to space it out over time. They're going to take their time. These people, they know how to get the money in there and how to get how to make it painful for you. They understand. They're not just some kid who's all your data in one night. It's gonna take a while. But you should see that, and you should be under a user's name. So you'll see somebody who's doing things that they normally don't do at that time, or you'll see a spike for that user. And yeah, you need to have something in there that shows that monitors that looks at files being encrypted. And a lot of the EDRs, the AVs, network protection, and endpoint protections. Anything that's worth its salt now has got something in there that can stop this kind of attack.
Now, when we talked last, it was during COVID, and of course, we had a lot of people logging in.
Yeah.
You just said you're back on campus, back in session. Did you find you had some interesting challenges there with somebody's Windows NT computer? They haven't upgraded for 20 years, not protected. Were they using those sort of endpoints for learning, or were you using some college endpoints that were already vetted?
Yeah. We were very fortunate that we moved to a laptop for most of the instructors here. So when people left, they left with a Palmer device. It was domain joined. It had all the policies. It had the AV. It had the patching on it that was automatic from the cloud. So they didn't need to be here on campus. We were lucky. There are other businesses, when I tell this, they're like, oh, how long did it take if you get the laptops in? There was always these shortages of laptops. We had those in for years before COVID. I'd seen other businesses that did that model as a DR. I didn't think pandemic. I thought maybe a fire, snowstorm or hurricane or typhoon. We got locations all over the United States. So I never thought about a pandemic. So when this hit, it was like, hey, I was right the whole time. I was preparing for this, and it made me look good, but it was, having the infrastructure in place and having everything where we have a lot of it is in the cloud made it easy for Palmer. I haven't talked to other industries about this, but for Palmer, we were just fine.
Mr. James Mountain, CISO for Palmer Chiropractic College. Now, I want to know if you have a campus in Arizona, because all this stay-at-home video conferencing stuff I'm doing, I got a bunch of cricks in my neck without being out in the road and doing things in person.
Well, we are the trust leader in chiropractors. There's one in California, San Jose, but there are a lot of great alumni out there that have practices, and make sure that they're a Palmer graduate, and you'll be just fine.
All right, excellent. I'm going to do that. Take you up with that. All right, good luck this year at RSA, my friend, and let's check back in and see what's going on. I'm glad you guys are safe and sound, and you got a robust program in place. Excellent. Thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks, John. Yep, nice talking to you again.